What is it and why does it occur? In his book, Factfulness, Hans Rosling presents what he refers to as the single perspective instinct. This is our instinct as human beings to simplify a large, complex issue and/or solution into one cause or action, rather than looking at the bigger picture and understanding the nuances of the situation. An example Rosling gives is imagine if somebody attempted to sum up your entire appearance with one picture of your foot. This would be a gross oversimplification of who you are and what you look like. We can identify that this would be ridiculous, and yet we find ourselves doing it on a daily basis. So why? Well, for starters, we as human beings like simplicity. When we follow this train, as Rosling says, our world and the issues within it become simple, digestible. This is so rarely the case and often leads to major misunderstandings. Another reason we often do this is we enjoy simplicity because it is easy and not time or resource consuming. To follow nuances, you have to be prepared to take a lot of time and energy going through different thoughts and perspectives. Yet, it is better to be sure on a few things than to make hasty generalizations on a lot of different subjects. There are two places in which this problem of one single perspective occurs most, and that is professional and ideologies. Professional, experts, and activists. Rosling begins by presenting what we all know, that experts are pretty fantastic in being able to receive and retrieve information. Have a question about the economy? Who knows better than an economist? Yet, as he states, they have their limitations. The first is that an expert is only an expert in their given field. Rosling says, being intelligent is not a shortcut to global factual knowledge. The graph on the right shows that when experts work together in a work environment rather than favor their own ideas, that collaboration up to 5 people can increase productivity to 88%. So rather than experts only focusing and trying to bend how their own field of knowledge can help the problem, they should extend that view into how others can also aid, as it's proven to benefit productivity. But this is also seen with activists. Hans Rosling presents how perceived knowledge can often lead to them making blunders in their activism. For example, when trying to support wildlife conservation, activists will often highlight the negative. We've all seen those commercials. For many people, though, seeing progress could be what will inspire them to actually contribute to a cause, as you don't want to give to a cause that doesn't seem to be able to make any improvements. Past that, with both experts and activists, it's important to avoid a hammer and nail perspective. Expertise is valuable, but don't try to make it fit scenarios where it is not warranted. Don't get fixated on the ways your one field could be the sole solution for a problem. For example, climate activists will argue for solar power everywhere without considering the different intricacies that go with that. Numbers are not a single solution. As Hans Rosling talked about, data can be used in instances such as proving a hypothesis, but building the hypothesis, as he said himself, you often need to talk, observe, and listen to actual people. An example this is seen with is the Prime Minister of Mozambique, who knew the economy was improving in his country, not just by the GDP alone, but by observing the quality of shoes his citizens had. This, combined with those figures, gave him greater insight than the numbers alone ever could. Numbers can and should guide our decisions, but they don't always give a simple solution because real-life choices depend on values, context, and perspective. Medicine is also not the single solution. Hans states that medical professionals can be very single-minded about medicine, or even a particular kind of medicine. The example that Hans Rosling gives in the book is that there was a village in India where they sent X-ray machines to treat or eradicate tuberculosis, otherwise known as TB. During this time, medical professionals were focused on this one specific condition, which angered the villagers who had, in their opinion, a plethora of more demanding health issues. Instead of addressing the one medical need of TB, it would have perhaps been more beneficial to provide the area with a better health center, which requires economic growth. This can occur also, though, in collaboration with experts. When medical professionals are certain of one thing, they can often miss symptoms of another. USA Today has written about how there are over 371,000 of Americans that die each year due to misdiagnosis of their doctors. Now, if these doctors had extended their view outwards and looked at multiple different diagnoses and solutions to their patients' issues, this may have been prevented. Next is ideology. Hans Rosling talks about how different ideas can unite us unlike anything else. But these ideologies can be just as limiting as experts and activists. As Rosling states, focusing on one idea, such as a free market, will lead you to be blind about other ideas. This can be seen in the single-minded perspective of the Prime Minister of Cuba, which, when presented with the data points shown in the graph presented here, he was proud in the fact that Cuba was the healthiest of the poor. He had not considered that the Cuban people deserve better than being the poorest of the healthy, which would have been the other perspective that the graph showed. This can also be said about the United States in reverse. People often put the US and Cuba at arms with each other, that a free market is good and a restricted one is bad. Yet the United States is remarkably the sickest of the rich, even though we spend the most on health-related spendings. As Hans Rosling states, instead of focusing on the difference between Cuba, a socialist country, and the US, a capitalist, we should be debating on why the US can't meet the health of other countries of similar status.
So why does it matter? Understanding and recognizing the single perspective instinct is important in realizing that you are limiting the possibility of seeing something in a different view. It narrows your understanding. For an example, a doctor might see a health crisis only through a medical lens, ignoring social or economic causes. It limits problem solving, complex issues, and solving it with a smaller solution, such as this image. First thing you might see is a tree, but someone else might see a lion or a monkey. Without having that other perspective from another individual, you are limiting your vision to only that one tree. By knowing how to prevent it, you are able to open up and see what others see. This could lead to a change in your opinion and viewpoint. Preventing or being a part of the single perspective instinct. There are ways that you can move around and change your ideas, such as testing your ideas. Don't collect examples that show only the benefits that you think is right, but also the side that may not particularly agree on, but allow your overall opinion to change or possibly stay the same. But by doing this, it will open up your view to a specific topic. The next one, limiting expertise. Don't claim expertise beyond your field. If you're a heart doctor, you don't want to be doing surgery on a brain. Consulting and discuss. Hammer and nails. If you are analyzing a problem in depth, you could end up exaggerating the importance of the problem or off your solution. Not one thing or idea is good for everything. So recognizing that is very important in everyday opportunities, work, job, school. Some more ideas that will help you prevent using the single perspective instincts is numbers, but not only numbers. What this means is the world cannot be understood without numbers, and it cannot be understood with numbers alone, Hans Rosling says. You have to look at the numbers and the actual situation or facts along with the numbers to fully understand the overall concept. The next one, and last, beware of simple ideas and simple solutions. You cannot shorten importance or try and to summarize it and leave the details because this could lose your overall vision or point that you are trying to make. This is a single perspective instinct. Thank you for listening.